The salvage ship Blue Raven floated quietly near a dead alien freighter in deep space. No signals came from the ship, no lights, no movement, just cold metal and silence. It had been drifting for years, forgotten by everyone. Elias, a young human engineer, stood in the airlock of the Blue Raven. His boots clanked against the old floor as he stepped into the alien ship. His job was simple: search for anything useful and bring it back. Scrap metal, tools, old tech, anything that could be sold. But something felt wrong here. The ship was too quiet, too cold. He switched on his helmet light. The beam cut through. The darkness. Dust floated in the air. Old signs, written in a strange alien language, covered the walls. Most doors were sealed shut, but Elias moved carefully, opening one hatch at a time. Then he heard it. A soft sound. Not metal, not a machine. It was like crying. He froze. The sound came from below deck. Elias followed the noise. Down a dark hallway. Down a broken lift shaft. He landed with a soft thud and raised his light. The hallway here smelled awful, like rust, blood, and fear. He moved toward the sound, heart pounding. Finally, he saw it, a cage, a real cage like one made for animals. Bent metal bars, rusted locks, and behind them someone was moving. Elias stepped closer. His light hit the figure, and he gasped. Inside the cage was a girl. An alien girl. She was thin, barely more than skin and bones. Her purple skin was bruised and dirty. Long tangled white hair covered her face. She was curled up in the corner, shaking. No clothes, no name tag. Nothing to show who she was. When the light touched her, she hissed and turned away, hiding her face. Elias quickly took off his jacket and moved slowly to the cage. "Hey," he said gently. "It's okay, I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't speak, just trembled. He pulled out a crowbar and forced the cage open. The door creaked. The girl didn't move. Elias walked in, knelt beside her, and placed the jacket over her shoulders. She flinched, but didn't push him away. Her eyes lifted for a moment, huge, bright violet eyes filled with pain and fear. Tears were already falling down her cheeks. "I don't know what happened to you," Elias whispered, "but you don't have to cry anymore." He wiped her tears with his sleeve. She closed her eyes. Gently, he helped her stand. She could barely walk. He carried her up the shaft, back to his ship. With every step, he looked over his shoulder, expecting something to chase them. But nothing came. Inside the Blue Raven, he laid her on a small bed and gave her water. She drank like she hadn't tasted anything in days. Elias gave her protein bars and covered her with a blanket. She didn't speak. He tried to scan her with the med unit. The results showed old wounds, malnutrition, but nothing deadly. However, the system gave a strange message. Unregistered life form, unknown species, nitrogen monoxide records found. "Who are you?" Elias asked softly. The girl just stared at him, her eyes wet with tears again. Elias reported to his command station, typing a quick message about what he'd found. The reply came fast. "If she's not in the system, she's illegal. Leave her behind. Do not bring her to port. Cargo like that is dangerous." "Cargo?" Elias stared at the screen in disbelief. They called her cargo. Like she wasn't a living person. He turned to the girl. She was trying to sit up now, holding the blanket tightly. She wasn't cargo. She wasn't trash. She was a person who had been locked in a cage, left to die. He stood up and walked back to the console. He deleted the message. He made a choice. He would keep her safe no matter what. But just as he did, the med unit blinked. Again, a warning flashed in red. "Warning, identified symbol match. Subject marked by Zircon Syndicate. Extremely dangerous." Elias turned pale. Zircon Syndicate? He looked back at the girl. She had turned away, showing her back, and there, just below her neck, was a faint glowing brand. A strange symbol burned into her skin. The mark of ownership. A slave mark. And not just any slave. Zircon. Property. Elias's heart pounded. He hadn't just rescued a lost girl. He had stolen from the most feared group in the galaxy. And now, they would come looking. Elias kept looking over his shoulder. The girl sat quietly in the corner of his small cabin, wrapped in a soft blanket. Her eyes followed every movement he made, but she said nothing. She hadn't spoken a single word since he pulled her out of that cage, not in English, not in any alien tongue, just silence, but her eyes. They spoke louder than words. They were wide, full of fear, but also something else, hope. Like she was waiting to see if he would turn on her too. Elias brought her another cup of warm soup. She took it with shaking hands. As she sipped slowly, he noticed her lips were cracked, like she hadn't had water in days. Her skin, once a soft lavender color, now looked pale and bruised. But her eyes, still glowing violet, never stopped. Watching him. "I'm Elias," he said gently. "You don't have to be afraid. You're safe here." She looked at him, no response. Not even a nod. He sighed and sat down at his desk. He couldn't keep her here forever. The Syndicate's brand on her back, he'd seen it before, on bounty boards, on warning posters. The Zircon Syndicate didn't. Forgive or forget. Anyone who touched their property vanished, or worse. But she wasn't property. She was someone broken, someone hurt, someone who still had tears left to cry. And Elias couldn't leave her behind. He tried the translator again, speaking slowly into the mic. "Can you understand me?" The translator played back his voice in 4 alien dialects. She flinched at one of them. Her fingers trembled slightly. He rewound the playback and replayed that specific language. Her eyes widened. He repeated the phrase again in that language. "You are safe. I won't hurt you." This time, her lips moved. Not a full word, just a breath, like she was trying to speak, but forgot how. Elias smiled gently. "That's okay. One step at a time." She reached out and touched the edge of his coat, lying on the chair, his old patch jacket. She picked it up carefully and held it close to her chest. He turned back to the console and ran another scan on her DNA using a secret offline tool. The regular system was dangerous. Now it could alert bounty networks or trade guilds. He didn't trust it. The offline scan took longer. While it worked, Elias walked back to her, sat on the floor beside the bed, and offered a small tablet. On the screen were simple pictures: food, water, bed, space, stars, a human face, a question mark. He pointed at each one and said the words slowly. "Food," he said. She looked at the picture, then at him. She blinked once. "Water." She touched the picture lightly with one finger. "Elias." He pointed to himself. Then he pointed to her. She hesitated. Her fingers moved to her chest. But then she shook her head, confused. Her lips pressed tight, eyes lowered. "No name." Elias felt his chest tighten. Whoever had locked her away had taken everything, even her name. The DNA scan beeped. He stood up and walked to the console. His eyes scanned the results and then froze. No species match found. Not in any galactic database. Not even a hint. She wasn't just a slave. She was someone unknown. Someone the galaxy didn't even recognize. But one detail did appear, a faint protein marker, deep in her blood. A royal marker, old, hidden. From a species marked extinct almost 70 years ago. Elias stared at the screen. "No way." He turned to look at her again. She was now sitting upright, holding the jacket like a lifeline. Her eyes were still on him, waiting. He walked over slowly and knelt beside her. "You're special, aren't you?" he whispered. "That's why they took you. That's why they hid you. You don't even know, do you?" She tilted her head, not understanding. He showed her the symbol on the scanner. She looked at it, then turned pale. Her hand reached behind her neck where the brand glowed. Faintly, tears filled her eyes again. She knew that mark. She hated that mark. Suddenly, lights on the ship blinked red. A warning. Alarm beeped. Elias jumped up and rushed to the cockpit. Unidentified ship approaching. No ID code, no response to hails. His blood turned cold. Only one kind of ship approached without speaking first. Bounty hunters. They had found him. He looked back. The girl was standing now, clutching the wall for balance. Her eyes were wide. With fear, Elias turned on the shields, locked the engines for silent run mode, and whispered to himself, "They're here for her. But they'll have to go through me first." The ship outside didn't answer hails. It just floated there, dark, quiet, deadly. Elias stared at the screen. The shape of the ship was wrong. Not military, not civilian. Its hull was painted black, scratched with claws or blades. No name. No lights, just shadows. But he'd seen that design before in bounty hunter forums. Syndicate assassins often use ships like this. He quickly shut off external broadcasts. No signals. No transponders. He dimmed every light inside the blue. Raven and prayed they weren't being scanned. The girl, still nameless, stood behind him, wrapped in a blanket. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She knew. She could feel it in her bones. The people who locked her in that cage were here. Elias turned to her. "We have to move. Now." She didn't argue. She followed him as he led her through the narrow maintenance passageways of the ship, each step careful, each breath silent. They hid deep inside the cargo hold, behind crates and shielded walls, away from scanners. But then clang, the blue Raven shook. Something had latched on. They were being boarded. Elias's hand tightened around his pulse pistol. He'd never used it in real combat. He hoped today wouldn't be the first. But he doubted he'd be that lucky. The girl grabbed his sleeve and pulled. She pointed toward a small service hatch. Elias understood she wanted to hide. He shook his head. "I won't let them take you again," he whispered. She hesitated, then grabbed his hand and pulled it to her chest, right over her heartbeat. It was racing. She looked into his eyes and mouthed one word. "Please." He nodded slowly. He opened the hatch and helped her inside, sealing it from the outside. A moment later, the airlock door hissed open. Boots hit the floor. Voices echoed in a low alien dialect. Cold, calculating. Elias stayed low, hiding behind a storage panel. He held his pistol tight and waited. Two figures entered. They wore dark armor, their faces hidden behind masks. One scanned the room with a red beam. The other checked a datapad. "Confirmed life signs," the taller one said. "One human. One untagged female. She's here." Elias's heart pounded. He had to distract them, lead them away from her. He reached for a broken fuel canister nearby, threw it across the room. Clang. Both hunters turned sharply and moved toward the noise. Elias ran the other way. The moment their backs were turned, he sprinted down the side hall, leading them toward the engine bay. He needed to buy time, just a few minutes. He reached the engine room and ducked behind the core. Heavy footsteps followed. One hunter came in through the top hatch, scanning. "Show yourself, human," a voice echoed. "Give us what we came for, and we'll let you live." Elias stood slowly, raising his pistol. "She's not yours anymore," the hunter laughed behind the mask. "She was never yours to take." "Then why did you leave her to die in a cage?" The hunter tilted his head. "You think that cage was death? That was protection. You have no idea what she is." Before Elias could answer, the second hunter dropped from above. Ambush. They grabbed him, slammed him against the wall. The pistol fell from his hand. "She belongs to the Zircon Syndicate," the masked voice growled. "That girl carries more than blood. She carries history. Then why hide her?" Elias gasped. "Because her kind started wars," the hunter hissed, "and finished empires." Suddenly, alarms blared across the ship. Red lights flashed. An electric hum filled the walls. The hunter turned to the sound. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Elias muttered from below the floor. A soft voice whispered through the ship. "Stop." It wasn't loud, but it echoed like thunder. The hunters froze. Elias recognized it. Her voice, she had found the control panel. She had spoken. "Leave him alone," she said again. Stronger now. "He saved me." The lights flickered. Energy shifted. The gravity stuttered, then returned. "What is she doing?" One hunter shouted. Elias smiled through bloodied lips. "Told you. She's not what you think." Suddenly, one of the hunters flew backward, slammed by an invisible force. The second raised a weapon, but it melted in his hand, turning into steam. The girl stepped into the room. She was still weak, still trembling. But her violet eyes glowed bright, now too bright. The syndicate mark on her back burned away, leaving only smooth skin. "I'm not a slave," she said. She raised her hand. The hunters dropped to their knees, paralyzed. Elias stared in shock. "What are you?" She turned to him slowly, breathing heavy. "I don't remember," she whispered. "But something inside me does." Elias couldn't move, not from pain, not from fear. He was simply frozen by the sight of her, this fragile alien girl who had once curled up in a cage, now standing like a force of nature. The violet glow in her eyes pulsed like a living star. The air around her shimmered. The two bounty hunters were still on their knees, breathing hard, unable to stand. She looked down at them. Her body shook, not from weakness anymore, but from holding something back. "Power," raged out. Elias managed to speak. You saved me." Her glowing eyes turned to him. "You saved me first." It wasn't just her voice now. There was strength in it, echoes, as if something ancient spoke with her. The lights flickered again, and then went out. A deep humming sound filled the ship. Something wrong in the engine core. Elias limped to the control panel. No, he muttered. That bounty hunter overloaded the power lines. If we stay, we explode. Sayari, he still called her that in his mind, even though she hadn't said her real name, walked toward him. "Where do we go?" "We run," Elias said. "Right now." The two bounty hunters groaned behind them, slowly regaining strength. Elias didn't wait. He grabbed Sayari's hand, and they sprinted toward the exit hatch. Smoke rose from the engine room as fire alarms screamed. Flames burst from a cracked fuel line. The Blue Raven was dying. Elias punched in the emergency override. The door hissed. "Open. Get to the escape pod," he yelled over the noise. Sayari hesitated. "Your ship, it's just metal," Elias said, eyes fierce. "You're more important." She followed without another word. They ran through the corridor as fire licked the ceiling. Sparks rained down. Metal groaned around them. The hallway twisted and bent as heat warped the walls. The ship was tearing itself apart. One explosion rocked the floor, throwing them against a wall. Elias groaned and helped Sayari to her feet. "Keep moving." Behind them, the two hunters stumbled forward. One had a cracked helmet, blood running down his neck. The other dragged a broken leg, but still raised a weapon. Sayari turned. Her eyes glowed again. "No," Elias said quickly. "Don't stop. Just run." She gave one last glance and ran. They reached the escape pod. Elias hit the launch button. Nothing. Red light blinked. "Manual override required," the screen said. Of course. "Stay inside," Elias told her. "I'll start it from the outside." "Panel," Sayari grabbed his wrist. "You'll be too far." He smiled weakly. "Trust me." He sealed the pod door, then ran to the hatch beneath it. Smoke burned his lungs. He coughed, slammed his fist into the control box, and began rewiring the fuse. The hunters were getting closer. The ship screamed around him. A final alarm blared. Core meltdown in 60 seconds. Elias ripped the panel open, jammed 2 wires together, and shouted, "Now!" The escape pod roared to life. Inside, Sayari screamed his name. He looked up too late. The hunters had reached him. One of them raised a blade. Sayari reached out inside the pod. And something inside her broke loose. A pulse of energy burst from her hands, white hot, silent. The hunter's armor shattered. The other flew backward into the fire. The ship began collapsing. Sayari hit the emergency grab latch. The pod door opened again. "Elias, get in!" He dove inside just as fire swallowed the corridor. The door sealed. The pod launched. They were thrown back as the small craft shot into space. Through the window, they watched the Blue Raven explode into 1,000 pieces, flames vanishing into the void. Silence. Just stars. Elias lay back, breathing hard. Sayari was beside him, gripping the edge of the seat, shaking again, not from fear this time, but from everything she'd done. The glow in her eyes faded. She looked like the girl in the cage again, tired, fragile, afraid. He reached over and touched her hand. "You saved me." Again. She didn't speak. Tears ran down her face. Elias wiped them gently, just like he had the first time. "You're not alone anymore," he said softly. "I don't care what you are, where you're from. You're not going back to that cage." Sayari looked at him. "I don't want to be a weapon," she whispered. "I don't want to hurt people." Elias nodded. "Then don't. But if they come for you, we fight." She smiled for the first time, a small, sad smile. "Together?" "Always," Elias said. The pod floated silently toward a nearby asteroid belt. A hidden station blinked in the distance, an old refuge for outlaws and lost souls. They had nowhere else to go. But they were still alive. And Sayari was waking up to what she truly was. The escape pod drifted through the asteroid field like a ghost. Elias guided it carefully, dodging rocks the size of houses. Sayari, still wrapped in the same blanket from the cage, sat silently beside him. She hadn't spoken in hours, her hands folded tightly on her lap. The glow in her eyes was gone now, hidden again, as if she were afraid of herself. Outside the window, a strange shape came into view. A small station, abandoned, half destroyed, and hiding in the shadows of 2 large asteroids. Its lights were weak, its nameplate rusted away. But Elias knew this place. Refuge 9, a forgotten hideout for those who had nowhere else to run. "Almost there," he said softly. Sayari didn't respond. She stared ahead, still lost. As the pod docked, Elias glanced at her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. But her eyes told a different story. They stepped into the station. The air smelled of oil and old fire. The halls were empty. Lights flickered. Elias guided her through the mess of crates and broken screens, deep into a hidden bunker. He used a stolen code to unlock it, one he'd kept from his smuggling days. Inside, it was safe, warm, quiet. Sayari sat on a soft seat while Elias unpacked emergency supplies. He gave her clean clothes, loose, comfortable fabric. She looked at them as if she didn't understand. "It's yours," he said. "You're not a prisoner now. You can wear what you want." She took the clothes slowly. Her fingers trembled. Again, but this time she wasn't scared, just unsure. Later she stepped out of the small washroom. She looked different. Still alien, still otherworldly. But now she looked alive, real. Not just someone who had been found, but someone coming back to life. "You look strong," Elias said, smiling. Sayari tilted her head. "You always say nice things," Elias shrugged. "You deserve to hear them." She sat beside him, closer than before. He powered up a small scanner from the station's archive room. It had old genetic databases, hidden files from before the Syndicate's rise. Maybe here he could finally find out who she really was. "Let me try one last scan," he said gently. Sayari nodded. He placed the sensor near her neck. It beeped softly. The machine word. Data appeared on the cracked screen. At first nothing, then lines of old royal codes began to appear, symbols long buried, bloodline tags that hadn't been seen in half a century. And finally her name, not a number, not a code, a real name, Princess Seiren Valtari of the Terrian Starburn line. Elias stared at the screen. Your royalty, Sayari blinked. What is that? It means your people. They once ruled a star cluster. Your family disappeared during the Syndicate uprising. Everyone thought your bloodline was gone. I don't remember, she whispered. I just remember cold, pain, darkness. Elias showed her the name on the screen. This is you. This is your name. She touched it gently. Seiren, she repeated. Seiren Valtari. Her voice cracked, but her back straightened. I am not a cage girl, she said. Not a slave, not a thing. No, Elias said. You're not. You're someone powerful and dangerous. That's why they locked you away. You're the last of your kind. Sayari looked up. Why me? Why keep me alive? Elias's voice lowered. Because the Syndicate fears what you carry. Not just blood but memory. Your genes hold the codes to Terrian technology, weapons, secrets. If you unlock them, you could challenge their control. Sayari stood. Then I will. Elias blinked. What? I will remember, she said, stronger now. If they fear me, they should. I will not be silent anymore, he smiled. Now that's the girl I rescued. She stepped closer. No, you didn't just rescue me. You gave me back my name. Outside, alarms suddenly blared. Elias jumped up, checking the station sensors. A ship was approaching. Small, silent, royal crests flickering on its hull, faint but real. Sayari stared at the screen. I know that symbol, she whispered. It's my family's. Elias checked the ID code, but it's old. Hidden. The system says it belongs to a shadow vessel. What's that? Sayari's face darkened. A ship sent only when the bloodline is in danger. The ship sent a message, audio only. Princess Seiren. If you are alive, we beg you to come forward. The Terrian resistance lives. We have waited, we have searched, and we will follow. Sayari's lips parted in shock. Elias whispered, You're not alone anymore. She turned to him. I don't know if I can lead. He stepped closer. Then I'll lead with you. She looked down at their hands, slowly reaching for his. Together? She asked again. Always, Elias said. But deep in the corner of the screen, a second signal appeared. One not from her people. A dark red-coded ship. Zercon Syndicate inbound. Estimated arrival. 3 hours. 3 hours. That's all the time they had before the Zercon Syndicate arrived. Inside the dark chamber of Refuge 9, Elias checked every system. Weapons, offline. Shields, limited. The station was old, forgotten, and barely functional. There was no way they could fight. And running wasn't much better. Across the room, Sayari stood in front of a cracked mirror. She wore the clothes Elias had given her, simple, plain, but there was something new in her face. A sharpness, a growing fire. Her real name echoed in her mind, now Seiren Valtari. A name once feared, now buried. Until now, I can't hide anymore, she said without turning. Can I? Elias looked up. You could try. But they'll find you again. They won't stop. Sayari turned, her silver hair falling around her shoulders. Then I have to become who they're afraid of. Before Elias could answer, a soft hum filled the room. The royal ship from earlier had docked. A hiss of air. A door opened. 2 figures stepped out, tall, robed, and silent. Their faces were hidden beneath smooth masks etched with ancient symbols. Sayari stepped forward. The taller figure removed their mask. It was a woman, aged, but strong. Her eyes were the same deep violet as Sayari's. She gasped. My princess. Sharon, you are alive. Sayari froze. Who are you? The woman bowed. I am Valara. I served your mother before the fall. Sayari's breath caught. Images broken, dreamlike flashed in her mind. A warm hand brushing her cheek. A lullaby. Stars through a palace window. Then screams, smoke, darkness. I remember. Her voice, Sayari whispered. Valara nodded. You were taken before your memory could form. Hidden in a bioseal. The Syndicate tried to erase your bloodline. But they never broke it. Sayari looked at Elias. Why now? Why come now? Valara's face tightened. Because the old throne stirs again. Survivors are rising, but they need a symbol. A name. A leader. You. Sayari's fists clenched. I'm not a leader. I couldn't even speak my own name until she paused, then added, until Elias reminded me who I was. Valara looked at Elias with curiosity. And what is he to you? Sayari didn't answer at first. Then softly, the one who saw me, not as property, but as a person. Valara stepped closer. We can protect you, train you, prepare you. To reclaim the Terrian Starlines, Elias stepped in. With respect, ma'am. She doesn't need to be trained like a weapon. She needs to choose. Valara raised an eyebrow. You speak boldly, human. I nearly died for her, Elias replied. I'll speak however I need. A moment of tension. Then Valara smiled. Good. She'll need voices like yours. But behind them, the console beeped. Elias turned, his heart sank. Zircon's ship detected. 2 hours early. Sayari's expression changed. They're rushing. They know. Valara turned serious. If they capture you, they'll erase everything. Your name, your blood, your memories. Again, Sayari looked between them. I won't let that happen. Valara opened the small case and took out a strange object, a crown. But not gold or silver. It pulsed with light and circuits, ancient tech made of living metal. This was your mother's, Valara said. Worn only by Terrian rulers. Sayari reached for it, but stopped. If I put this on, I stop being me. Elias stepped close. You'll always be you. But maybe now the galaxy needs you to be more. Sayari looked into his eyes. What if I become like them? You won't, Elias said. Because you still cry when others hurt. Because you still care. That's what makes you different. Slowly, Sayari picked up the crown dot and adjusted to her head, wrapping gently around her temples. Lines of glowing blue ran through her skin, like memories awakening. The air shimmered. Suddenly her posture changed, taller, stronger. Her voice was steady now. I am Shaziran Valtari, last of the royal blood. And I choose to rise. Elias smiled. Took you long enough, Valara bowed. Your people will follow. But then, the station trembled. Alarms screamed. Zircon forces boarding. The system blared. Valara drew a blade. We'll hold them. Elias turned to Sayari. We have to go. There's an escape tunnel through the maintenance shafts. You can't be caught again. Sayari grabbed his arm. Not without you. Elias hesitated, then nodded. But before they moved, a deep voice boomed through the intercom. Shaziran Valtari, give yourself up, or we will burn everyone on this station. Sayari stood frozen. Elias turned to her. Don't listen. They lie, always. Valara whispered, this is your test, princess or pawn. Sayari's jaw tightened. Her eyes flared bright violet. She raised her voice to the intercom. I am no one's pawn. And if you want me, come and take me. Smoke filled the station. Blaster fire echoed down the narrow halls. The Zircon Syndicate had come with fire and steel. Their soldiers wore black armor, faces hidden, voices sharp and cruel. They moved like shadows, clearing every room, searching for one target, Shaziran Valtari. But she was no longer running. Inside the command chamber, Sayari, crown on her brow, violet eyes glowing, stood tall beside Elias. Her body shook slightly, not from fear, but from the storm building inside her. A storm that had waited too long. "We don't have much time," Elias said. "They're pushing toward us from both sides." Valara wiped blood from her blade. "We'll hold them as long as we can, but they want her alive. They'll destroy everything else." Sayari looked at Elias. "If I go to them, they stop. They leave the station." "You're not giving yourself up," Elias said firmly. "Not again." Sayari touched the crown. "But what if my surrender saves everyone else? Then the girl I found in that cage will be gone forever," Elias said. "They won't stop until you're erased. You heard them." Sayari lowered her head. "Then I must end it." Elias blinked. "And what?" She turned to him, voice steady. "The bloodline, the fear, the syndicate's grip. If I run, they chase. If I fight, they fall." Elias touched her shoulder. "Not alone." Sayari looked at him, her voice quiet. "Why are you still here?" He smiled, despite everything. "Because I remember the day I found you. Locked in a cage, no name, no words. Nothing but tears. And I remember the moment you looked at me, not as a rescuer, but as someone real. That's when I knew. I'd never leave you." Sayari blinked. Her lip trembled. "You gave me back my name. And you gave me purpose," he whispered. A deep explosion rocked the station. Walls cracked. The lights flickered. They were nearly surrounded. "Valara, step forward. We have one chance. There's an energy core beneath the station, old Terrian tech. If Sayari connects to it, she may awaken what the Syndicate fears most." Sayari frowned. "But I don't know how." "You are the key," Valara said. "You don't need to know. You need to feel." Elias reached for her hand. "Let's go." They ran down broken stairs, through smoke-filled tunnels, past fighting rebels and Syndicate soldiers. Sayari moved with a strange calm, like something ancient was guiding her now. They reached the old core dot. It was massive. A glowing blue orb floated in the center of a cracked chamber. Vines of crystal reached toward it, like it was alive. Sayari stepped forward. The orb pulsed once, then again. Stronger. It knew her. Sayari touched it. A shockwave burst outward, knocking Elias off his feet. Sayari didn't flinch. Visions flashed in her mind. Her mother's face. The palace gardens. The fall of the Terrian Empire. The scientists who hid her. The Syndicate who hunted her. The cage. Elias, her eyes snapped open. She spoke one word. "Enough." The orb lit up like a sun. Energy flooded through the walls. The station itself groaned as hidden systems came to life. Doors locked. Lights brightened. Defense turrets dropped from the ceiling. In the distance, Syndicate soldiers screamed. Sayari floated slightly above the floor, her body glowing. Elias crawled to her. "Sayari, can you hear me?" She turned. Her voice had a strange echo now. "It's Sayaran, but yes, I'm still me." The crown pulsed with light. Suddenly, a voice broke through the station-wide speakers. "This is Commander Kryn of the Zircon Syndicate. Surrender the girl or die." Sayari stepped toward the "Come" panel. "I am not your girl. I am not your slave. I am the last royal blood of Taria, and I am not hiding anymore." Outside, the Zircon ship began to retreat. Syndicate soldiers scrambled. Their tech was failing, their weapons jammed. Their ships were being hacked by the ancient core, reprogrammed by her presence alone. The Syndicate was losing. Elias limped to her side. "You did it." Sayari looked at him, tears rising again, but this time they were soft, warm. "I did it. Because of you." Elias smiled. "Glad I wiped those tears." She leaned close, resting her forehead on his. "You found me broken, and now you've made me whole." Valara's voice came from the hallway. "Princess." The rebels across the stars are watching. They're ready. Say our return. Then we rise, all of us. As the station lit up with hope, Sayari reached for Elias's hand. We begin. New galaxy, she whispered. Together? Elias asked. She smiled through glowing eyes. Always.